Have you ever heard the story about these two men? One, Ronald Reed, a janitor living in a small, modest house, and the other, Richard Fuscone, a wealthy executive living in a big mansion. The janitor quietly saved his entire life and left behind $8 million in savings. The executive, despite earning millions, declared bankruptcy trying to keep up with his lavish lifestyle. This story reveals something profound. Wealth isn't about how much you earn, it's about how you manage, think about, and behave with money. This video is inspired by Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money. It's not just about how to make money, it's about how to think about it. Here are 7 most powerful and interesting lessons we learned from the book. Housel emphasizes that our personal experiences with money shape how we think about it. He says your personal experiences with money make up maybe 1 in 100 millionth of a percent of what's happened in the world, but maybe 80% of how you think the world works. Take 2 people. One who grew up during an era of economic stability, like the 1990s or early 2000s, and another who lived through the Great Depression. The first person might be more inclined to take risks, like investing in the stock market or starting a business. The second person, however, might be extremely risk averse, focusing on saving and keeping cash reserves, as they learned from their early years that economic stability can vanish in an instant. And in both cases, that's completely fine. According to Fidelity Investments, individuals who have lived through times of economic hardship, like the Great Depression or the 2008 financial crisis, tend to have more conservative investing behaviors compared to younger generations who have not experienced such crises. Housel also discusses how luck and risk are often misunderstood. One example comes from Bill Gates and his early involvement in computers. Gates' personal luck played a huge role in the rise of Microsoft. Let me tell you about how Bill Gates got rich. In 1968, while most students in the US had no access to computers, Bill Gates was lucky enough to attend Lakeside School in Seattle, which had access to one. In 1968, there were about 300 million high school age people in the world. About 18 million of them lived in the United States. About 270,000 of them lived in Washington state. A little over 100,000 of them lived in the Seattle area. And only about 300 of them attended Lakeside School. Gates had a head start that most couldn't dream of. He made the most of it, diving into programming and developing skills that led him to co-found Microsoft. Gates himself acknowledged that without Lakeside, there would have been no Microsoft. It's a mix of talent, luck, and timing that created Microsoft. And Gates' story shows how much circumstances outside our control can shape outcomes. The next takeaway is from the chapter Never Enough. You know how some of the wealthiest people, like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, just can't seem to stop, no matter how much money they make? Elon Musk sold PayPal for billions, but instead of enjoying his wealth, he went all in on SpaceX and Tesla, constantly pushing for the next big thing. Bezos built Amazon into a global empire, yet he still says it's always day one, meaning he's never satisfied and always hungry for more. Even Richard Branson, with his Virgin Empire spanning airlines to space tourism, seems to be on a never-ending quest for new opportunities. It's like no matter how much money they have, it's just not enough. They're always chasing more, as if the wealth itself becomes the goal instead of enjoying the freedom it brings. A story that Housel mentioned is about Raja Gupta, a self-made millionaire and former head of McKinsey, who risked his reputation and career for insider trading despite already being wealthy. Another interesting example is that lottery winners often declare bankruptcy because newfound wealth raises their lifestyle expectations. Research from the National Endowment for Financial Education shows that about 70% of lottery winners lose their money within a few years. Morgan Housel says the hardest financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving. Next, we have a magic of compounding. Housel emphasizes how compounding works as the most powerful force in investing, but only if you're patient enough to let it work. He explains how many people misunderstand it, thinking it's all about making huge wins in short periods, when in fact, it's the small, consistent actions over time that yield the biggest results. Take Warren Buffett as an example. He didn't become one of the richest people in the world overnight. Instead, his wealth grew slowly through disciplined investing and letting his returns compound. His net worth was estimated at around $100 billion in 2024. From 1965 to 2020, Berkshire Hathaway's stock has grown at an average annual rate of about 20%, significantly outpacing the market, which has historically returned around 7 to 10% per year. Let's take a simple example. Imagine you invest $100 every month into an index fund that tracks the stock market, which historically returns about 8% per year. After 30 years, you would have invested $36,000. But because of compounding, your total value would be much higher. If your investment grows at 8% annually, your total investment would be worth around $135,000, almost 4 times the amount you originally invested. Next thing Housel talks about is how the rare outlier events often account for the largest gains in wealth. These outliers are the big wins that shape the success stories. According to a study by the Journal of Finance, 70% of returns from the stock market come from just 10% of stocks, highlighting the impact of those tail events. For example, think about Apple. If you invested $1,000 in Apple stock in 2001, it would have been worth over $250,000 by now. But this massive return wasn't just because Apple was a typical decent company. It was because of a few major developments like the iPhone that transformed the company. The same principle applies to Amazon. While Amazon's early years were full of risky bets, the company hit big with two major innovations: Amazon Web Services and Amazon Prime. However, not every idea worked out. For example, the Fire Phone was a massive flop. Yet Amazon's rare successes like AWS accounted for much of its growth and made it one of the most valuable companies in the world. So when you realize that the big wins come from the tails in business, investing, and finance, it makes total sense that most things won't always go according to plan. A lot of things will go wrong, break, fail, and fall along the way. And guess what? That's all part of the process. It's the rare, unexpected moments in the tails that can make everything worthwhile. Next lesson is expect the unexpected. Life is full of surprises, especially when it comes to money. The things we don't see coming often shake up the world and markets the most, and sometimes they can create incredible opportunities. Take Bitcoin for example. Back in 2010, you could buy one Bitcoin for less than 10 cents. Fast forward to 2024, and it hit $100,000 for the first time. Who could have predicted that? When Bitcoin first appeared in 2009, most people thought it was a joke. It's not just Bitcoin. Think about the 2008 financial crisis, one of the worst economic downturns in history, or the shock of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, which reshaped how we work, live, and spend money almost overnight. These events were game changers, and they show how quickly things can shift. The lesson here: stay open to the unexpected. You never know when the next big opportunity or challenge will come your way. Keep learning, stay flexible, and be ready to adapt, because there are just things nobody can predict. Housel also says that there is no such thing as a free lunch in finance. Everything comes at a cost, whether it's directly visible or not. The idea here is simple. If someone's making a lot of money, there's probably something that they're giving up in return, whether it's the risk they're taking, the work they're putting in behind the scenes, or a long-term sacrifice that isn't obvious upfront. Consider Apple. If you predicted its bright future and invested $1,000 in Apple stock back in 2001, it would be worth over $250,000 today. But you'd have to believe in Apple even during times when its stock experienced significant downturns, such as during the dot-com crash in 2000, the 2008 financial crisis, and the post-Steve Jobs era in 2012. For instance, would you have stayed calm when Apple's price went down 30% in 2018? Or would you have sold quickly, missing out on Apple's insane returns just a few years later? Imagine you're walking through a store and see jewelry left unattended. You probably wouldn't just steal it because you quickly remember the cost of being caught, going to jail, and ruining your life. Now, think about the stock market like that store. Every investment opportunity might look like an easy grab, offering potential big rewards. But there is always a price. The price of volatility and potential losses. Just like you wouldn't steal something if you weren't willing to face the consequences, you shouldn't invest without considering the risks. The lesson is to make sure you're aware of those costs and know the risks rather than just focusing on the shiny success stories. The key takeaway from the psychology of money is that wealth isn't just about how much you make. It's about how you manage, think, and behave with your money. Understanding the role of luck, risk, and compounding, as well as being prepared for rare, unexpected events, can help you make smarter decisions in both life and investing.